There's a pattern we keep seeing right now with AI. And once you see it, you really can't unsee it. It usually sounds like this. I tried it, it worked a little, and then it just sort of stopped. Or we were using it more a few weeks ago than we actually are now. Or even my team is experimenting, but nothing is really stuck yet. Welcome to episode 123 of Instant Expertise Marketing plus AI. I'm Yvette Brown, co-founder of X Promos. I became an entrepreneur at 23 when I started a promotions agency with my then 29-year-old business partner, Shari Nomady. Together, we've built campaigns for global brands, and today we're building decision confidence in the age of AI. We're doing this by keeping humans accountable, technology understandable, and outcomes measurable. So that pattern I was talking about, try it, get some results, then drift away, it's happening everywhere right now. And most people are interpreting it the wrong way. They think it means I didn't stick with it, I need more discipline, my team isn't really fully bought in, or even worse, it just didn't seem to bring much value. And like we've been hearing this lately, it was more of a hassle than it was worth.
And I'm Shari Nomady. And if you've been following along for a while, you know that Yvette and I rarely think alike. But what makes our partnership work is we always come to the same conclusions, and possibly even more so now today with AI. And what stands out to me in those conversations is the tone people use when they say that. It sounds like failure, even when it's not being said directly. But there's just this underlying sense of we should be further along than we are. And we're wondering if this is even really worth it.
Yeah, that's it. There's kind of this quiet self-judgment in it. Like we had momentum and then we lost it.
Mhm.
But what's interesting is when you actually unpack what happened step by step, it's not failure, it's a pattern.
And it's a very predictable one. You try something, you get a result, maybe even a surprisingly great one. And for a moment, it feels like, okay, this is it.
Yeah, there's this spike of excitement because you can see the potential. I'm all about the potential. You think this could actually change how we work.
But then the next time you try it, the result is different, maybe less useful or harder to trust.
And that moment is the moment that everything shifts because now you're not just using it, you're evaluating it.
And most people don't have a clear way to do just that.
That is very true, Shari. So, what happens next is subtle. You don't consciously decide to stop using it, you just slow down.
So you use it a little less, you double check it more, you decide it's not worth the hassle. So you go back to what you know and what you think works.
Yeah, and before you realize it, that momentum is gone. And the conclusion that most people draw from that is we didn't stick with it.
Or we need better prompts.
Hey, or we haven't found the right tool yet.
But none of those are actually the issue.
No, the actual issue is that you never had a clear way of defining what good looked like in the first place. So every result you got felt a little random.
Even when it wasn't.
Yeah, and that's the part that's easy to miss because from the outside, it looks like inconsistency. But
Mhm.
underneath, it's not inconsistency, it's actually a lack of evaluation.
Which means you can't build trust.
And as you probably know, without trust, you can't build consistency. And without consistency, you can't build anything on top of it.
And so, what people are actually calling this discipline problem is actually a feedback problem.
100%. Because if you can't really tell the difference between strong output, weak output, or something in between, then every interaction with AI becomes nothing more than a guess.
And guessing does not scale.
Sherry, I think we need that on a t shirt. Guessing doesn't scale. No, it doesn't. Instead, it creates hesitation, and nothing breaks really good momentum than hesitation.
Which is why this pattern shows up across completely different contexts. Enterprise teams, founders, freelancers, and people using AI personally.
Yeah, that's how we know it's for real, right? It doesn't matter where you sit, the pattern is the same. Let me say that again. It doesn't matter where you sit, the pattern is the same. Try, get a result, lose confidence, pull back. And then, unfortunately, most of us assume the problem is us.
And that's the part that we want to interrupt.
Yep, because it's not you. You didn't fail. You were navigating without a way of knowing what actually mattered.
And once you see that, the whole experience starts to make a lot more sense.
Yeah, let's slow that down for a second because I think this is really important. When you got that first good result, what made it feel good?
Well, usually speed, maybe novelty, or the fact that it saved you a lot of time.
That's 100% true. But those aren't actually reliable indicators of value. They are just the most obvious ones.
Well, they are the easiest to notice.
Right. But what they don't tell you is, was this the right direction? Was this insight meaningful? And was my decision improved because of it?
What they do tell you is this was faster than before.
That was fast. That was a faster lap. And that's where things start to drift because speed feels like progress even when it's not.
So you keep going until something just feels off.
And then when it does, you don't really have a way to diagnose why.
So you stop.
Exactly. And this is why so many people feel like, and probably are, dabbling with AI.
And dabbling is not the problem.
No, dabbling is just kind of the natural outcome of not having a system. Also, another t shirt right there.
Yeah, it's what happens when you're exploring without a way to anchor what you're seeing.
Yeah, and when you're doing that, that pattern will keep on repeating. It repeats across tools, across teams, across industries.
Because the underlying issue never gets addressed.
Yep. People keep changing the surface, right? They're changing the surface level. They've got a new tool, they've got a new prompt, they have a new workflow, but they're not really changing how they're evaluating what's happening. And so without that, everything kind of feels temporary.
Nothing sticks.
Right. And so instead of asking, how do I use AI more consistently? You need to have a better question.
And the better question is, how do I know it's actually working?
Yeah, totally. Because once you can answer that, consistency becomes a byproduct.
Not something that you have to force,
Right. And this is where most people are right now. They're trying to build that consistency, but they don't have the clarity.
which is why it feels so unstable.
Yep. And so this is because you're building on something that you don't fully trust yet. And that's really not a sustainable place to operate from.
Especially as AI becomes more embedded in how decisions get made.
Yeah, exactly. Because this isn't just about the tools, it's about relying on outputs.
And once you rely on something, you do need to trust it.
And guess what? Trust requires evaluation, which brings us back to the core idea. You didn't fail, you were set up to misunderstand the game.
Because the game isn't use AI more,
The game is actually understand where AI actually creates value.
and most people haven't been given a way to see that yet.
And this is why everything feels so inconsistent. And it also explains why that early excitement just doesn't last.
because excitement without structure will fade.
Hmm. And we've been working on a way to make this clearer, right? This is not by adding tools, but by helping people actually see, helping those people see what's happening underneath those results.
Because once you can see that, you can stop guessing.
And once you stop guessing, everything changes.
And that's it for today.
So, if this pattern felt familiar, it's really not random and it's not really a reflection of your abilities. It's a reflection of how unclear AI still is for most people. So, next week, we're going to take this one step further because even when people start to see this, they still often go in the wrong direction.
And that's where tools start to become a distraction.
Yep, and we'll get more into that next time. Thanks for